Welcome, one and all. That has finished. West Ham United 2, Everton 0. Well, I don't know who expected that. We certainly didn't predict that as a scoreline when we were doing a build-up show, but it is very, very gratefully received. That's for sure. Look, we're going to talk about everything that's happened in the game, all of the incidents, or as much of it as I can remember. All about the 3 points, that, by the way. And I don't say that. That sounds like I'm trying to make excuses for West Ham, like somehow we weren't the better team. We were. We were better than Everton. Everton were awful. I'm pretty sure that by the time maybe not finished this video, but at some point this evening, Frank Lampard will be sacked. I'm quite sure of that. They were pretty clueless, and that was the right team to play at the right time. Just what we needed at home. That's not to say that it wasn't nervous at times in the first half. Let's go through it sequentially. Tell you what. I thought we started quickly. And when I say started quickly, I mean the first sort of couple of minutes. It didn't look like we were sitting back. It looked like we were sort of having a press, sort of going for it. But we retreated really, really quickly, actually. But I sort of didn't mind that because we were playing 3 at the back. So you had Zuma at right centre back, you had Ogbonna at centre back, and had the fantastic Knife Gerd playing left centre back. He's become a bit of a favourite of mine. I don't mind telling you right now, I think he may be the best of our summer signings. But we'll get on to a few of the players individually later on in the video. But what I felt we were doing, we were denying Everton space to run into behind us. There were a couple of times when Damari Gray got the ball, and had we played defensively as advanced as sometimes we do with a high line, there would have been space for him to run into. That space wasn't there today. So clearly that was a tactic that we absolutely got right. That being said, I thought we kept on retreating back. Not the defensive line, I was happy with that. But the rest of the team, we were retreating deeper and deeper and deeper. And some points we found it quite hard to get out. Now, one of the areas that I thought we were struggling earlier on was wide. They seemed to outnumber us in wide positions. And it got to a point where after about 25 minutes, I thought, West Ham just weren't attacking at all. We were very much inviting them onto us, which I thought was a really, really dangerous game at the time. Look, clearly it wasn't. We won. But let's be perfectly honest here. The last few months, at least, and I'm being kind there, have sort of worn us down as fans. They sort of worn me down where I'm looking at it and I'm worried. So the moment you start inviting teams onto you, it starts to become a concern. And that's what I thought we were doing. There wasn't an awful lot going on at this point from West Ham. After, I think it was 26, 27 minutes, something like that, Benrahma had a shot, a decent shot, forced a save from Pickford. I'll tell you what was really, really concerning, though, was Kurt Zouma, who was back today, and I was pleased to see him back. He started the game well, I thought. Headed clearances, interceptions, the sort of stuff you're used to seeing from Zouma. And I do think for a large part of Kurt Zouma's West Ham career, he's not played too many games up at sort of right centre-back, if you like. So I was nice to see him at right centre-back. Anyway, he got injured. Under no real challenge. It's sort of almost as if his sort of leg gave way for underneath him, which I think you always worry when that happens. If someone clatters someone or someone gets studded in the legs or something like that, then maybe you worry a little bit less when someone collapses over under their own steam, particularly when they've come back from injury, particularly when they've got maybe the poor injury record that Kurt Zouma has, then it becomes a little bit of a concern. Got to be honest, didn't think he was going to be able to continue. He was gesturing towards the bench, really limping, really hobbling. Kurt Zouma looks broken at the best of times. Anyway, so I thought, well, clearly that's it. Well, it wasn't at all. We started to attack a little bit more. So we're still in the first half at this point. I think we had a corner. Then the ball sort of got recycled a little bit. Emerson crossed the ball over. Really good cross with his left foot. Excellent cross. And who was there to flick the ball on? None other than Kurt Zouma. Now, it may have taken a deflection of one of the Everton defenders. Very, very hard to see. But the player that reacted quickest, to be fair, actually, Antonio and Bowen both reacted. But Jarrod Bowen, who of course is celebrating the news that he's about to become a father. So congratulations to Jarrod and Danny Dyer, both Danny Dyers, with that fantastic news, which was only sort of, I think, was revealed yesterday. Clearly with a little spring in his step, and he managed to sort of studied the ball home. He sort of nudged it with the outside of his boot, beat Pickford to the ball, finished it. I mean, it was a massive relief, and that's just me watching it at home. Anybody that was at the stadium, you could really you could sense the relief, because I don't know about you, it seemed like the stadium was starting to get a bit frustrated before that, particularly that point around the 25-minute mark where he didn't seem to be attacking. That was it. That was 1-0 to West Ham. They had a little bit of VAR, looked at it. And you know what? It was great. I was never too worried about it because I did think, from my view, from where I was sitting on the sofa, it looked like Zuma headed it. It looked like the last touch came off the Everton player. But great reactions. A poacher's instinct from Jarrod Bowen there, certainly. But that wasn't going to be the last time that he would demonstrate the poacher's instinct, because it did not take long until West Ham and Bowen notched their second of the game, still in the first half. What can I say? Antonio, fantastic wing play. I mean, he actually looked like a guy that's played a lot of his career on the wing. He sucker punched the Everton player in and then sort of nudged it past him. He used strength. He used pace. It was smart. He really did. I felt he really sort of bedazzled him, if you like, and nudged it past him, and ran into the box, which I sort of always screaming out for players to do, particularly Ben Rama. And I always want people to get into the box. You never know. Someone might bring you down. You might get a penalty. So I'm screaming at the telly, get in the box, Antonio. He heard me. So he ran in. He carried on running into the box. And he ran into the space as well. He attacked the space. He tried to pick up Bowen. Okay, look, he got a little bit of a deflection off one of the Everton players, but Bowen was there. Bowen, it was the intended move. It just, took a little deflection on the way. Again, a real eye for goal, a real awareness of space. He took up, Bowen I'm talking about here, took up a real striker's position. They'd swap positions for that particular goal. Antonio on the right, Bowen in the middle, and it was very, very instinctive, very good. Another excellent finish from Bowen. 2-0. West Ham. It was amazing at that point, and you've got to look at it at that point and think there are two struggling teams playing against one another. And I'm not so naive to think, all right, listen, we can all have a laugh at Frank Lampard and whatnot. I'm not so naive as to think that actually if West Ham had gone 2 goals down, we'd have been the same. And they tried to come back. Everton, by the way, they really did. I mean, I think the second goal was quite near. I think it was quite near the end of the first half. Start of the second half, Everton came at us. Had a real good go. I say real good go. They first 5 minutes they had a go. You'd expect nothing less, but you could tell the confidence had very much drained out of them. By this point, I felt we retreated a little more than we needed to. It was back to the ball, but we were playing counter-attacking. And I mean, I've criticised Antonio a lot in the past couple of weeks. He looked fit in this game. He really did. He looked fit. He looked strong. He looked sharp, and he looked a little bit faster. And I was really pleased. If we're going to play counter-attacking, which we very much reverted to for large parts of this game and in the second half, which was ironic because Antonio had been talking about that very thing. He offered us an outlet, Antonio did, as did Bowen. They were always there for the long pass and for that quick transition out from when we were defending quite deeply. A lot back to the wall for a lot of that second half, but I didn't feel that they could never commit everybody forward because we always had a counter-attack in us, I think, which was really good. They tried to target us down the flanks, targeted Emerson actually quite a bit. But fair play to him. I mean, again, I'm not Emerson's biggest fan, but as I say, wonderful cross for the first goal. Made another good cross in the first half as well, and he went on a really, really good run in that in the second half, and I think he forced Pickford into a save, which possibly deflected off the bar, got us a corner. But that driving run from Emerson, it sort of stopped their attacks down that side, because I felt at that point, oh, hold on a second, we can't keep committing forward here, because this guy's gonna have a pop. Probably is, off the top of my head, probably his best game. Emerson, a bit susceptible defensively, don't get me wrong, but probably his best game there. By this point, we had a lot of things. We had it shored up in central midfield, so they were just struggling to get us. But I thought the three centre halves were brilliant today. They really were. If this is the formation that David Moyes wants to play, and he can get those three centre halves on. And maybe you could even swap one out, or I don't know, but they look good. Each and every one of them, for different reasons, actually, has really pivotal sort of interceptions and clearances. And it wasn't wave after wave from Everton, but Everton had a go, and you wouldn't expect any less. The one slight annoyance for me was we don't carry anybody on that halfway line when we're defending a corner, so we don't have an out ball. Anyway, we'll deal with individual players in a second, because I do want to talk about the centre backs. But I think it's worth saying I was really surprised to see Kurt Zuma come out for the second half. Really, really surprised. I just thought he was broken. I think he probably is broken, actually, but. Imagine how good he would be if he was actually fit. A really good performance. So I tend not to look at the chat, John. That's not Antonio Conte. That's Conor McGregor there. He is open mouthed in disbelief that we've managed to get the 3 points today, and they are much needed 3 points. We saw it out in the end. Let's have a little look here. I'm just looking at my notes here. We made 2 double substitutions. That's 4 substitutions. Paqueta for Souček, Antonio for Ings, and then later on we were also going to bring on Flynn Downs and Ben Johnson. Look, let's talk about Paqueta very quickly. Paqueta, I think Moyes will be pleased with Paqueta today. That game was all about, from Paqueta I'm talking about here, it was tackles, it was interceptions, it was gritty. He dug in. That was not Brazilian flair that we saw from Paqueta today. He really dug in, and I think Moyes would be pleased with that. I mean, it was far from our best player, Paqueta. And I can see a few people have already mentioned who our best player probably was. And if you listen, you hear, I know a few people have joined us. And by the way, thank you very much. 1,200 people watching live. So thank you very much indeed. If you'd be so kind just to stick a thumbs up on the video, that would be very, very much appreciated. Share the love, so to speak. Help us with the YouTube algorithms and all that sort of thing. But if you were listening to the start of the video, I think you'll probably know who I'm going to nominate my man of the match in this particular one. But let's just go through a few players. Fabianski didn't actually have an awful lot to do, and that is in part due to the defensive wall in front of him. I'll stick primarily to the centre halves here. Great to see Zuma back. Got broken halfway through the game, or 28 minutes into the game. Amazing that he continued, and coming back from injury like that, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him in the next game. It's hard for him. I think it's massive impact on his knees. He broke down again later on, but clearance, interception, tackle, his positioning is fantastic, and he looks comfortable in that back three. Middle of the back three, Ogbonna, least busy of the three, but I'll tell you what, he did look calm and assured. I didn't think we'd see him in too many Premier League games. It has to be said. Another player that's come back from injury, really good clearance in that. In the second half. Let's just talk about Jarrod, though, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, my pick of the summer signings, he's a wonderful footballer, a really wonderful footballer. And I mean, he just seems to have it all. He's got a bit of pace. He reads the game magnificently, headed clearances, wonderful tackle in the second half. And certainly the commentator of, which I believe was Tony Gale, was suggested it might well be a penalty. It was beautifully timed. Obviously, VAR had a look at it. Nothing to see here. And yeah, I mean, he was brilliant, but his distribution is wonderful. Absolutely brilliant ball early on in the first half for Bowen. Surprise even Bowen. He'll get used to it. Bowen we'll talk about in just a second as well. But a good, wonderful. Despite Bowen scoring 2 goals, a Gerd's going to be my man of the match because I thought he was brilliant. But I might change my mind by the time we get to our Patreon player ratings tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see on that. Well, it was Emerson I've already spoken of as well. Paqueta, look, defensively, he worked his socks off today. It was never going to be a game for him. Today was a scrap. It was 3 points at any cost today, and he dug in. He honestly, he felt like we bought him from Stoke rather than we had some Brazilian midfielder there. Good on him. Well done to him. I was really pleased. Got also Sado. He made the 4 substitutions for Flynn Downs. Looked really industrious when he came on. Good time wasted and whatnot. Antonio, I've already mentioned. Brilliant from Antonio today. Much better. So I was delighted with that as well. I don't want to talk about David Moyes' job and all that sort of thing now. This is purely a match review, and I'm in good spirits. I'm happy. I'm really happy with those 3 points, regardless of anything else. Bowen, well done, Jarrod Bowen. He was on it. He was sharp. So a bit clumsy at the start, actually. Start of the game, sort of tripping over himself and whatnot. But amazing what a goal and a pregnancy can do, because he really grew in confidence, and he was playing with his chest puffed out. Funny enough, when he celebrated, he was celebrating with his belly puffed out because he stuffed the ball up his shirt, I guess, to mimic his pregnant fiance. Anyway, so he played really well. Just looked sharp at all times. And you probably want, if you haven't watched the game, you probably want to hear about Danny Ings, don't you? So Danny Ings was a 70th minute substitute for Michail Antonio. Antonio had run his socks off, basically. So no complaints about Antonio. But I had probably about 68 minutes. Oh, he's starting to look a little bit tired now. No surprise there. Again, one of if not his best game of the season. It's up there for top 2 or 3 games this season anyway. But Ings came on. What can I say about him? He looked sharp. His first touch was a nutmeg. He nutmegged blonde fella Davis for Everton. Was a good introduction. Looks lively, looks sharp. Clearly a good footballer. Clearly an intelligent footballer as well. It got to a point I was all about backs to the wall. Paqueta was off. Souček came on as a stopper. Emerson came off. Look, Emerson attacked well today, as I say, probably his best game. But Johnson came on just to give that extra defensive solidity. Actually had a little good attack himself, Ben Johnson, when he came on. Actually skinned the fullback and put over a really good cross with his weaker foot. But we were in preservation mode then. I was really pleased to see the way we wound down we're 3 minutes injury time, but maybe the way we wound down the clock for the last 8 minutes or something like that. Very good. Yeah, I was pleased. Look, it wasn't the best performance in the world. I'm not going to pretend it was. We were playing a really poor team. They've got. Been speaking about this a lot in videos very recently, haven't we? Let's be honest about there being 3 worse teams than West Ham. And I think if you are a worse team than West Ham, you probably are going to go down. And I hadn't overly included Everton in that, but seeing them today, unless they can get a new manager in who can really change them, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult for them, and I don't say that with any sort of glee at all. There are other teams in the Premier League I'd like to see go down long before Everton. I can tell you that. And if you're a regular watcher, you'll have half a clue who those teams are. But that massive amount of mismanagement, and I think if you're an Everton fan, you're probably not going to be hugely convinced that whoever the Everton ball bring in next will be able to galvanise that team and keep them up. They got some good players there, very blunt in attack, look like they need a striker. Whether they're going to do it, I don't know. Anyway, I end up talking too much about Everton, all about West Ham for us today on this channel. You have to go to an Everton channel to find out a little bit more about them. But really good, really pleased. The team, we were nervous today, but with the first goal, we grew in confidence. And you could see just in the way that the West Ham players went over to the fans, and they were sort of, geeing them up, saying, "Come on, let's hear you," and all the rest of it. They weren't giving it the full Delia Smith, but You could see it. It was nice to see. It was nice to see. They felt relief, and then the fans got behind the team, and we scored another goal. So really pleased for anybody that went today, certainly. So there you go. A good day at the office for West Ham. We'll deal with the next game as and when it comes. But for the moment, really, really, really good. I'll be. Gio will be along later on over on the forum channel. We do have 2 channels, just in case you don't know. So just have a look in the description below. Please go and make sure you're subscribed to both Hammers Chat channels. And if you want a third Hammers Chat channel, you can even go and check out our Patreon as well. Gio is at the grounds today. He's not really gone to see the Eurovision Song Contest prelims to go and meet Graham Norton. Guilty as charged. I lied about that. So he'll be along later doing his recap from outside the stadium. I'm sure he's a very, very happy bunny indeed. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You can, can't you? When West Ham win, you really can enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.